Okay, so hi Laura.
Hi, Allie.
I'm so excited that I get to interview you. Um, it was all random who interviewed who, and it feels very special to me to get to talk with you about humanness and about your work as a therapist. I think because you're someone who, as a therapist and a human, I admire a lot.
Oh,
I
thank you,
I feel
Allie.
like you do such an amazing job of the heart connection with people. But also just being extremely skilled and knowledgeable. Sometimes people have like one of those more than the other, and I feel like you have both like in abundance. So it's
Thank you.
you're
I feel the
amazing.
same way about you. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, so I'm curious. I want to hear about your picture, your pictures of in our Humans of MHT photo series. I'm especially curious about your goggles picture. What's going on with your goggles?
Soap making. So that's one thing I like to do as a hobby is make soap, and you have to use lye at one point. So you have to protect your eyes and wear gloves, and you get to look like a scientist for a moment. But
You
I
are
like,
science. Yeah, that's so fun. So, is you enjoy the lye process in particular? Then is that why you picked the goggles?
I think yeah, it represents, yeah, I guess I do. I like taking anything and mixing it. So, soap making, baking, a lot of things that children play with. I just enjoy like that process.
You like having different ingredients
Yeah.
that you're putting into the pot,
Anything I can mix
stirring them up.
together in a pot and see what it comes out as I like.
Yeah, I love that. Um, well, lye is a really fascinating one to think about too because it's poisonous.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
but there you are creating something very nice and healthful, the
that's
soap.
true.
Um, do you feel like there are any, like, how do you make sense of that, even maybe metaphorically, the mixing of the lye into your pot to make soap and you like mixing all different kinds of things together in play or in therapy?
Yeah, I think yeah, symbolically, when we think about just pieces of ourselves, then we mix the good in with the not so great or what we perceive as not so great.
Sure.
Um, but I think it's the sum of the whole that really, the sum of the parts that create the whole, which obviously, the end result can be a beautiful thing,
Hmm.
a valuable, worthy thing.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of an interesting comment you slipped in there, just the parts that we maybe think are less valuable.
Right.
What what do you mean by that?
I think sometimes our vulnerabilities, sometimes the pieces of ourselves that we hide or feel we have to hide or protect from other people, are actually the parts of ourselves that um, are the most human. Our flawed self, or like I said, what we perceive as flawed.
Hmm.
When we have a relational experience where we can actually share, some of the parts maybe that we're less proud of, when
Hmm.
those are received and accepted, yeah, it can be a very powerful experience.
Hmm.
There's risk in that, of course, but
Yeah,
there can be
that is a
great
real
reward.
kind of beauty from ashes sort of experience to have something like that turn into something beautiful in a relationship. Yeah, I like that. I like thinking about lie as the as
The light.
I'll think of that for myself next time. I'm not sure. Well, maybe this will turn into something like soap.
Yeah.
um, well, tell me a little bit about your humanness as a therapist. How do you feel like your humanness shows up in your sessions and in who you are as a therapist self?
I think, well, I think most importantly, I really believe in change, that we can all change, that I consider myself a lifelong learner.
Mm.
So I feel like if I'm always sitting in that space and place with my clients, that, I mean, I am learning as well, I'm growing as well. And I think since I have such a powerful belief in just humans' ability to be resilient,
Hmm.
I carry that hope and that kind of strength based energy with me into the room.
Mm-hmm.
and play as well, creativity and just making a little bit of space for play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think um, those maybe your learning posture, which shows up, I think, perhaps more consistently with you than anyone else I've met, which is amazing because you already know a lot. But also your love of play feel like two pretty special things about you. So that makes sense that those are things that kind of mark your humanness as a therapist. Um, I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about play, because you are such a skilled play therapist, and I know that you really love playing. I think you've said to me that you like play.
I do.
Good job for you. Um, but I'm kind of curious what sort of thoughts you have, if you can condense them down into a minute or two of how play can be leveraged for healing. I don't think we always are used to thinking about it that way. But my goodness, you do that so effectively. So what are your thoughts about how that works?
I think, play is children's work. It's how they process their world. It's how they, try on their different parts, different selves, and often how they share. I think it creates safety. When I think about a play relationship, it creates safety. It's a mask almost, not always, but sometimes it's a mask where the person feels a little safer to share or to test or explore. So I think the potential for growth with play is unlike any other type of therapy, actually. And I think that's why it's important to include play in our lives as adults, however that's manifesting in your life, whether it be team sports or hobbies, or just giving yourself that freedom of creative process. It can be a powerful change agent and growth.
Yeah. It seems like the idea of a mask makes me think of just play as providing a little bit of a buffer to between the most vulnerable parts of us and whatever it is that we're trying to learn to interact with. And then that brings about safety that allows maybe for more growth than could happen if it was made maybe quite so explicit what we were doing. That would make it scarier.
Yeah, it feels a little safer, I think. Yeah, I agree. Just to kind of have it, it's almost like walking beside the experience and then processing it with someone else kind of beside you before you have to kind of take that and integrate it.
You're kind of trying things on, but it's not yet. It doesn't have to be you. And then until you find out if it fits, maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. Well, what about just this huge question? What does humanness mean to you? How do you think about that?
Resiliency is the big one that comes to mind. I tend to think of the positive definition of humanness. I think of empathy, relationship building, our ability to be connected and to really feel each other's experiences. But within the resiliency, I also, it includes those darker experiences or those, the lie. Shall we go back to that?
Yeah.
It includes the lie, right? The parts of ourselves that maybe are harder to share. And I think humanness is also very much about those parts and really allowing our relationship with those parts to ourselves so that we can kind of share relationally with other people in a very authentic way.
Yeah. Do you feel like that those two things interact, resiliency and being able to share the lie, the less desirable, or what we perceive as less desirable inside of us?
I do. I think when we walk through or move through an experience that's difficult, yeah, it's being a little more gritty. It's being able to maybe risk because we're sitting comfortable in our sense of self, and we've had that relationship with all of our parts, so to speak. And whether that includes acceptance, forgiveness, an understanding, I think it then allows us to grow, be a little bit braver. I think it allows us to accept those parts in others too.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just stepping into something with maybe an ideal that isn't attainable. I think sometimes it's the real pieces of people that we connect the most to.
Yeah, something that is maybe even less ideal, but actually ends up being better or more special to us.
Yeah, I think it's relatable, and I always feel with all of my clients just a sense of respect for the courage it takes to step into therapy and look at those experiences, and the willingness to kind of explore just who they are and maybe where they want to be. It's a very courageous process.
Yeah. Well, those are profound thoughts, Laura. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you too, Ellie.
Yeah, it's been so fun to interview you in just our mini interview series. So we'll sign off now, but thank you, and I'll get to talk to you soon. So.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.